Nights in Rodanthe, another Nicholas Sparks movie, another romance drama. I finally decided to watch it. If I sit down, put it up and watch it, a movie about a wife who has a cheating husband who goes to a hotel to run a hotel, and a doctor who has a grade or muddy background who wants to escape for 4 nights, bump into each other for what pretty much seemed like a Lifetime movie experience. And on this episode of Movie Breakdowns, I'm going ahead and review Nights in Rodanthe from 2008. What's up, world? Welcome to another episode of Movie Breakdowns. I'm your host, Ali Zakka. What's up, world? Welcome to another episode of Movie Breakdowns. I'm your host, Ali Zakka. What's Movie Breakdowns? Movie reviews here. We look at new and old movies, give them a grade 8 through F. Pluses and minuses do count. And this movie you want you to watch, let me know. Please put in the comment section below and I'll get to it as best I can. Also, Patreon, Patreon/Ali Zakka. And on the Patreon, you get the cut in front of everybody for $2 a month. Wherever you want me to review, I get you immediately because you're paying for my services. You also get trade reactions, trade reviews, and much more stuff on Patreon. And you get movie reviews before they come out on Facebook and YouTube. Like, you get this in December, which it might be coming out late December or January on YouTube, but right now you get it mid-December. So enjoy it. Now, let's go and get into today's episode, 2008 Nights in Rodanthe. And this movie's from 2008, and what is this movie about? This movie, like I said in the opener, you have a wife by the name of Adrian who has a cheating husband. They've been separated for a few months, and she's just pretty much want to try to get away a little bit. Like, she's always bogged down. Her husband comes back into the picture and he wants to be a part of life again. So she's like contemplating, but this 4-day weekend gets her time away from her family, get her time away from her husband, and get her time away from just her life. She got a run-in that her friend gave her for a weekend. And when she goes there, she meets this doctor who comes into town who has a muddy background, and he is trying to deal with his problems and his issues. Also, there's a hurricane coming at the same time this 4-night weekend, and they end up having relations with each other. They pretty much bond a relationship over 4 nights. That's pretty much Night in the Rodanthe. And this is going to be a spoiler review, guys, so that's why I'm trying not to reveal so much in the spoiler section, but from here on out I'm going to spoil everything. The things that I like, I guess my first thoughts before I jump to the things that I like. My first thoughts, this movie is fine. It's not the best romance movie I've seen, and it's not the worst romance movie I've seen. It's fine. It is fine. Fine at best. I've seen a lot of people in this movie are actually in other movies. A lot of them are in actually a lot of other action superhero movies, which is more my forte. Like Diane Lane, she is Martha. I just think of Martha anytime I hear the name now. Martha, why did you say that name? But she's Martha Kent in Superman movies. And then you have what's his face from Spider-Man in this, and I just name blanked out there on me. Harry Osborn. Franco. James Franco's in this movie. You have Viola Davis in this movie. You have Christopher Maloney, who plays in Man of Steel as well, in this movie. You have Mae Whitman, who is Katara from The Last Airbender, from Spider-Man. Not Spider-Man, wow. Thing with Spider-Man and The Last Airbender there. But from Avatar: The Last Airbender, you have Katara in this movie. She also plays in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. So, like, this movie has a big cast of people who are in superhero movies that are in this movie, and it's kind of interesting to see how they react from the superhero poses and the superhero characters to these characters in this movie. They're fine. It's fine. Nothing too crazy. Nothing too all over the place. It's fine. Things that I did like Diana Lane's story with Adrian. I like Adrian's storyline in this movie about the mother who was separated from her husband because her husband went and cheated with the best friend, and she's contemplating bringing back the husband for the sake of the family, for the kids, and for her kids and stuff like that. And I did like that storyline. The doctor storyline who's played by Richard Gere, who plays Paul Flanner, his storyline, it was like, I get it, like he went there to talk to a guy who wife passed away when Dr. Flanner was working on her. She was allergic to the anesthetic and just pretty much died on the operating table. And Paul refused to say sorry, but then like in the movie, he has a moment where he goes and says sorry to the guy, and it's a very emotional scene where the dude's like getting choked up, and he just really wanted to hear that. He knew it was a mistake, logically he knew it was a mistake. It wasn't something intentional, but the fact that Dr. Paul never actually acknowledged the fact that, hey man, I'm sorry that you lost your wife. That's tough. It's not something I ever want to see happen, and I wish we could prevent it. I'm super sorry. It's not something I really wanted to, happen. And the fact that Paul kind of just tried to be more like legal about it, and I apologize that the fact that man's wife passed away and never took the time to really talk to the guy and just have a conversation about, this not what we wanted here. Nobody wanted this at the end of the day. And that scene where they had that heart to heart, and Paul breaks down in front of the husband about like, dude, I'm so super sorry that happened. Like, that scene is really good. So the movie has some bright spots in it. It has some really strong spots. But then there's also things that I didn't like. For example, the cuts. There's a scene where you find out Paul's background and he gets frustrated and he wants to pick up these sticks and take them up the stairs. And I swear the camera cut like 20 different times. It's the same scene. It's like it cut to the ground, cut back to him, cut back to Diane's character, cut back over to him, cut back down, cut back up. I was like, why? What's all the cuts? Why the camera's cutting so quick? It went from being like long, shots with not that many cuts to just rapid cuts. And I was like, why? Why is the camera angle cutting like that? It doesn't need to cut 4 or 5 times. Maybe one time to show him picking up something, but you don't need to cut back to Diane's face and cut back to his face, cut back to Diane, cut back to the ground, cut back up, then cut to the car, then cut to upstairs. Like, what is going on? Okay. Another thing I didn't like is kind of the story part of it for the most part. Like, it's 4 nights, and I'm supposed to believe they end up after yelling at each other, which they don't know each other from the jump. Like, they literally just met each other like 2 nights. The dude was being standoffish to Adrian at first, and then Adrian somehow opened him up and then called him out about, like, hey, what happened? I heard the doctor, and he's like, you really want to know the truth? And I was like, why would she care? She just met you. She doesn't know you. Like, she doesn't know anybody in this town. The fact that somebody passed away on your operating table, which is super tragic, doesn't really impact Adrian at all. And it was supposed to show like a sentimental side of Paul. Not really. It kind of made him like as a jerk, the way he flipped at Adrian about the situation. And you can say, oh, he was under stress. Under stress my butt. Like, that scene, that direction there for that character, and maybe it was written like that in the books, but for him to flip about, Adrian asked him, oh, you're in town you're a doctor, what's the doctor doing in a town like this? To ask that scene and for him to flip out and then like, you know what, I'll tell you what happened. Like, okay. Or then there's a scene where Paul calls Adrian out about being scared about leaving her husband, about not going back and going out doing her own thing. He calls her out about like, you're scared because you won't leave the guy who cheated on you and stuff like this. And I was like, you don't know her. Why would she take any advice from you? Besides the fact that he told her that, like, I don't think she even really explained that. I remember he heard the conversation of Adrian talking to her daughter about, like, me and your dad haven't had that conversation yet. Like, we don't need to have this conversation with you. Why would he tell you that I'm bringing him back? Like, he overheard that, I get it. But the fact that, like, he doesn't know that she was going to go back to him, and then he calls her out on it, and she's like not sure, and then he called her a coward. I'm like, you don't know her. You don't know her. Like, how can you say that? And then the romance scene comes into play where the hurricane happens at the beginning, like this. It kept building up this hurricane, and this hurricane happens, and there's already like tension between, like sexual tension between, or romantic tension between Adrian and Paul. But when the hurricane happens, when the moment they decide like, let's make out and let's kiss and everything while we're in the middle of a storm, the house is getting torn apart, and the house stands up, and then afterwards they just start dating. They literally just start dating. You have a quick scene where Adrian's hating herself because her son had an asthma attack and she's with the father. He's with the father, and the father. And Adrian told the father make sure that he takes his asthma medication. But no, has an asthma attack. He's in the hospital, and I was like, oh, is he gonna die? Is he gonna have like pass out? No, he doesn't die. But then she's like, I'm a horrible person. Like, how so? Your job was to take care of this inn for a weekend. You have a father who was to take care of the kids. More than anything, it's the father's part, not the mom's issue. Like, he should be able to take care of his kids for 4 nights. 4 nights. But that just didn't make sense to me either. I'm a horrible mother. I couldn't be there. He got sent to the hospital. And Paul's like, you're probably blaming yourself, but you shouldn't blame yourself. I'm like, what? Okay, sure. It's a little few things like that, and the whole romantic relationship thing that happens, it really doesn't make sense to me. Like, just the fact that like immediately they're all like, oh, I just met you and this is crazy. Here's my number. I'm not gonna finish that. I'm sorry, guys. But like, night 1, night 2, sexual tension. Okay, I can see that. But like, for them to be like, oh, we're fully in love now. We're going to write each other letters, and also he dies at the end of the movie, and which that takes Paul dies at the end of the movie, which then takes a little bit of an extra 20 minutes left of the depression saga of Adrian going through depression and her host dating a guy or possibly getting married to Paul that she met, over 4 nights in Rodanthe. And you have a really heart-to-heart scene with May's character, Amanda, who is the daughter of Adrian. And they have a conversation and they really break it down, and Amanda's kind of telling like, Ma, I don't really blame you. I understand what's going on. Like, you had like all these things, and it kind of like give her a little prep talk, but at the same time just opens up. It's a really heart-to-heart moment there, heartfelt. This movie has a lot of tears in it. They try to pull on your heartstrings a lot. And then at the end of the movie, Adrian kind of gets like that release of life again and a new leaf on life, and just kind of opens up, and that's pretty much it. It's a fine movie. There's things in the movie I'm just like, yeah, it could have been better. And I guess the writing of the story is based off a book, so I know you can't put everything that's from the book into the movie, but there's like certain parts of it where I'm just like, okay, sure, we're just rolling with it. Let's go ahead and get into the budget and everything with this movie. So the budget of this movie is $30 million estimate, and it brought in worldwide $84 million plus a little bit over $84 million. That makes sense. That makes sense. The director of this movie is George C. Wolfe. They the one that directed it, and this is one thing I would say, because some of the movie characters seem like there's overacting. Some of them seem like they wasn't given 100%. Like, the one character I was truly invested in was Adrian, who Diane Lane played, and Diane Lane did a phenomenal job. But then there are certain points where Richard Gere's character, it was like he was directed in a certain way, and it's like he wasn't kind of like all in because of the way he was directed. I think the way the directing of his character was like, he was kind of like he was bored sometimes, or wasn't really fully invested of being there. Like, the character Paul Flannery himself seemed like he was like, okay, I'm just gonna sit here and watch. I'm entertained. I'm mildly amused. For example, the scene where Adrian, which makes no sense whatsoever, she gets mad at her husband, goes downstairs and just opens up a record player and start playing music. And she's like, this song always gets me going. And then she goes in the pantry and starts throwing food into this trash can and drinking Jim Beam, like whiskey. Just start drinking it and start throwing it into no, it's actually Jack Daniels. It wasn't Jim Beam, it was Jack Daniels, sorry. But they're throwing it into the trash can. And Paul was like, okay. Let me take a little sip of whiskey, now take a full glass. Okay. I'll do the same thing. Like, okay, dude, really? I don't know. I just, part of it just didn't seem like Paul was fully invested sometimes. And then there's a scene where they're dating at this point. They go to like a little festival and this old man asks Adrian to dance, and Paul's watching Adrian dance, and he's just like, that face I'm making, just like, dude, are you excited? Are you like have you seen her have fun? Or are you just like kind of like, I'm here, but it is what it is? And then at the end of the movie where he like, I fully love her, I was like, I don't know, bro. Do you really? It just seemed like Richard Gere's directed in a way to portray Paul as like not 100% there. I mean, I guess he put not let his doors down. I get it, but something about the way he was directed in that as a character. And speaking of character, let's go ahead and get into it. Diane Lane, who played Adrian, I thought she did a good job. I was more behind her character, more enthusiastically interacted with her character. That makes sense. Like, whatever Diane Lane did for Adrian brought her to life. She made her be emotional. She made her like over top, having fun, bubbly kind of character. At the same time, somebody who like had this passion and she wanted to get back into it. And you can see her super ecstatic about all this stuff. Even when she talked about like Poseidon and the ocean and the sea, she sounded enthusiastic about it. It didn't sound like she was like giving elaborate like exposition. She was kind of like actually being there. I thought Diane did a good job playing Adrian. Richard Gere, who played Paul, like I said earlier, I feel like Richard Gere at certain times was like, I mean, maybe he was directed to be this way, but I felt like his character of Paul was like at times too laid back or like just didn't really care. It seemed like he cared, and there's other times where Paul was like over enthusiastic, ecstatic, but I can't say over enthusiastic right now. Over enthusiastic about like certain things, or for example, him being directed to be like, I'm not gonna tell you anything. You don't need to know the truth. You want to know the truth? I'll tell you now. Like, Adrian didn't ask for it. You decided to put this on her right then and there. Like, she died on my table. I want to be the best doctor. Like, what happened to your wife, dude? Then we talk about that. And then your son, who you bring up a lot, who is James Franco. You bring up your son a lot, and you finally get the interaction between them, but that's about it towards the end of the movie. And he seemed like, I think Paul character put been aloof a little bit throughout the movie, and then he was to open up, but in reality, like, his background wasn't bad enough to make him seem like he was, I'm being guarded, I have this shield on me. Like, nah, man, I don't know. Christopher Maloney, who played Jack, it was just interesting to see Christopher Maloney in this movie. I was like, oh, this dude from Man of Steel. Viola Davis, who played Jean, she was the hype friend, pretty much, who's like, ooh, you got yourself a man. Ooh, this, and this. She was fine. Scott Glenn, who played Robert Tolson, I thought he did a good job. I thought he was phenomenal. Mae Whitman, who played Amanda, I thought Mae did a good job too. Like, she was the emo golf girl going through the alternative phase kind of character, and then she has a heart-to-heart with her mom at the end of the movie. I think that was a powerful scene. There was a scene though where Mae Whitman's friend said like her mom's looking good, and I was like, why do you say that? That line seems so out of nowhere. Your mom's looking good. Like, why would you say that? Like, that just seems awkward. It was really weird. And then James Franco, who plays Mark Flanner, I thought James did good. Like, he was on the scene probably more than probably 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes of the movie. Thought he did fine for the role he was in. Any other thoughts? Not really. Like, it is, if you ever watch a Lifetime movie, this movie seems like a Lifetime movie, but just on a bigger stage. It's pretty much all the little things you can think of when it comes to romance movies. Two people with not even checkered past. It's just like, they just live lives and had different lives and different things going on. They spend a vacation, which is a 4-night weekend, a 4-night, yeah, I guess a little end. Two people, one who works there, shouldn't be shouldn't be getting involved with the patrons anyway, but whatever. They just end up getting together, have a little romance thing, and then after 4 nights, they're in love with each other and want to see each other. It's just a simple romance movie that also has a bunch of plot holes into it, like what happened to Paul's wife? Where did she go? She was there at the beginning of the movie. Franco gets upset because, you know, Paul's character, or Paul himself, doesn't really own up to anything, and finally owns up to stuff because he met this one lady over a 4-night weekend that changed his whole life. And I can see that Adrian's side of things, where she meets somebody who she said, I never really saw myself, never really got out, and being back in this inn, kind of seeing like the things I was used to as a kid, also used to love doing. And Paul's like, well, you probably should do that, Adrian. You probably should work on arts and crafts again and do all these certain things again, which I can see that renew freshness and invigoration from her. But as far as Paul's character, is like, I don't believe that this lady changed your whole life within 4 nights. No. I can see Adrian, who's already kind of like out of her relationship, who her husband cheated on her, and she trying to stay with the husband for the kids' sake, but really not happy with herself. And I can see her having this 4-day weekend to really sit back and like, you know what? I am going to make a change in myself. I am going to do this. But really why she made the change, because she thought she was going to get some down the line. She's like, oh, I met this man, so somebody does find me attractive, which Diane Lane is not an unattractive person. Like, so therefore, like, that concept to me doesn't make sense, but I can see somebody's actual like mentality in life, like an actual person be like, yeah, nobody finds me attractive, but this person does. Oh, this new person finds me attractive. Let me set my whole life up and so I can meet this new person, versus like, yo, set your life up for yourself, and then you can move out, and then you can be on and do your things. You can bump into people out and about. Like, you got it going on. Just believe in yourself. And this movie kind of gives her that revigoration of life again. So the Diane Adrian storyline I actually like better than anything else in this movie. Music, you can miss it. It doesn't. It's fine. Camera angles. There's certain camera takes and camera directions in this movie that I'm just like, like the quick cuts and different scenes. But other than that, it's fine. It's cool. If it's a Friday night movie, no, don't waste your Friday nights on this movie. And grading time. I'm going to grade the movie Nights in Rodanthe a C-. It's a C- for me. The reason why, I did like the cast. I did like the cast in this movie. The storyline is simple, but it's also the things I didn't like was the storyline too. The storyline, parts of the storyline just seemed like it was like, oh, we gotta get these two to get together because it's a romance movie. In reality, versus like, yeah, okay, Paul's dealing with the doctor thing and Adrian's dealing with the family issue, and they handle their issues, and that's solid, and they just happen to be in the same place together, versus making it, well, this guy and a girl and they have to get together, so let's have them hook up during the middle of a hurricane. Oh, now they're a romantic couple. They're glued at the hip and now they're in love forever. Like, I guess it's a romance movie, but at the same time, just like, okay. And The Notebook actually made more sense to me as a movie, how it went out over time and how it wasn't just one night and go. They actually took years to develop a relationship and months, and then they was like, we're still together kind of thing, and we have 2 different lives, but we still love each other, and let's see if we can make this work again, versus like, it's only 4 nights, we're immediately in love, we're a thing. And just like, no. But like Paul's own storyline and Adrian's own storyline, it worked for me. And then when they came together, it was just like, now I feel like I just forced this because it's a romance movie and it has to happen. Like the hurricane was this big deal, and the hurricane wasn't really much of a big deal. I was assuming before I watched it and read the review or read the back cover that this romance was based off of a time frame of what is in the hurricane, and they had to find a way to survive, and at the end of the movie they kind of get together. No, it's the hurricane was like maybe 5-7 minutes of the movie. And so like the storyline part of it, the relationship part of it, I just didn't bite, but everything else really did work for me. And also the directing, I felt like there's certain times where characters was over enthusiastic about something, over exaggerating on things, and there's certain scenes where it was like couldn't give a care about certain stuff. Some acting in the movie wasn't as solid, and some of the line delivery in this movie were lines written for characters, not line delivery, but lines written for characters wasn't the best either. So it's a fine movie though. If you've seen Nights in Rodanthe, what do you think? Please put in the comment section below, because I give this movie a C-. Other than that, see you guys in the next episode of Movie Breakdowns, and keep being awesome. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate that. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. If there's a review you want me to watch or do, let me know. Please put it in the comment section below this video. Also, you want to watch the last episode of Movie Breakdowns, it's right there. Just gotta click on it and you'll be able to watch it. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Love y'all, and keep being awesome.